Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are excited to have Barbara Greene back joining us today. And everyone says, well, who's Barbara Greene? You don't know her yet? Well, you need to. She's a certified orofacial myofunctional therapist here on Zoom and on the regular podcast as well to talk more about all of her work that she does at tonguethrust.com. Again, this is myofunctional therapy. She's here to talk to you more about the in-person and online services that she offers with these programs of exercises to help you stop oral and facial habits that can ruin your smile, change your appearance, sap your health. So welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Fine.
Oh, well, please introduce yourself to everyone so far who may not know you yet.
That is true. Well, I am Barbara Greene. I've been doing myofunctional therapy now for 53 years, and I am hopefully good at what I do and changing people's lives. Most people don't know what myofunctional therapy is because it's not taught in dental schools or orthodontic schools or medical schools. And so as a result, a lot of people are not referred to have myofunctional therapy like they should be. And the common layman's term is actually a tongue thrust. So a doctor would say to you, you have a tongue thrust. And so then a myofunctional therapist would teach you a program of exercises that would help you to retrain the oral and facial muscles. And we work on head, neck, body posture, how you eat and drink, and how you sleep. And today's discussion is about correct sleeping. So if we can share our screen, then I would like to be able to
Absolutely, you can.
get our presentation up here.
Go ahead, bring it on up, sweetheart. Let's see.
All right. So there I am. And I
Great
was
job,
trained
as always.
by Daniel Garliner at the Institute of Myofunctional Therapy in Coral Gables, Florida, and then with Richard Barrett in Arizona. And so I've taught courses for many years. We were somewhere in the world every month. And it was an exciting life as well as private practice. This is how to get in touch with me at www.tonguethrust.com. My phone number, 805-452-4302. And I am in Ventura, California.
Perfect.
But I treat people online. So my patients are all over the world.
Wow.
So sleeping correctly is very, very important. It's an important part of the therapy when we are training someone. And most people don't realize that sleeping on their back is the correct sleeping posture. It is the ideal sleeping posture with only neck support. So many of my patients use 2 or 3 pillows behind their head, and that is incorrect. So if you see, this is a very special pillow that I use with my patients, and all they're doing is supporting their neck. And the young boy has a little bit smaller pillow than the adult has, but I put the pictures in 2 different directions so that you could see how she's only supporting her neck and not pushing her head or shoulders forward. So they should be breathing through their nose, their mouth should be closed, and their tongue should be across the top of her mouth. So the drawings that we originally had help us to see whether or not the tongue is in the correct position. So this would be your head cut in half. So here's your nose and throat. Here are your lips and your teeth. This is the palate or the top of the mouth. And the striped area here is your tongue. So when you're sleeping, your tongue should be totally across the top of your mouth. Then when you swallow, the back of your tongue actually comes back and totally touches your throat. Then it pulls back in. And the incorrect posture would be the tongue down. and forward. So the tongue might be against the upper front teeth, or it might be against the lower front teeth, or it might be just between the teeth. But it is not supporting the top of the mouth. And it actually causes the palate to get smaller. And then it decreases the nose space. So here you see a lot of nose space. And then the trachea, the windpipe, goes down into the lungs. And here you see a much smaller nose space. So their ability to actually get air is lessened by having their mouth open. And over the years, training their muscles to work the wrong way. So these are the pillows that
I was going to say, those are the pillows
that I specially have made for me.
Okay.
They used to be sold online called a face saver pillow.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the woman who made them died when she was 90, and she didn't leave anyone to take over her business. And that was really sad. So I found somebody who could make these for me. So this, I call the number 4 and the number 5, but it's just the smaller or the larger pillow. And this is the person that makes them for me. So you can order them from her. She's called Sewing by Sandra. Her first name is Sandra. And it's sewing by Sandra oo@gmail.com. And she's from just a short distance from me in Carpinteria, California. But she will mail them to people if they want them. So I love these pillows. Now let's talk about sleeping incorrectly. And this is what I see frequently in my patients because they're mouth breathers. See how
that looks like my kids sleeping. They're 7 and 9. Oh my goodness.
And their head position is totally wrong. And they're hyperextending just to try to get more air. And so this whole position is incorrect. So the head extension to attempt to get enough air, there's too much pressure on the side of his face. The head, neck, body is not in alignment. The back is not being supported correctly. The mouth breathing usually is accompanied, in this case, by snoring, symptoms of sleep apnea. He's restless. He cannot sit still during the daytime. He's too active. His breathing stops briefly at night, and he's distractible and has difficulty concentrating, and he's moving a lot during his sleep, tossing and turning. So this sleep posture is not at all what we want it to be. Okay? Now here he is, and the resulting face. So his right side of his face and his left side of his face and his eyes are different because of the pressure that he puts on his face at nighttime. And then notice because of the mouth breathing, his chin should be way out here. So his chin is way too far back. That cuts off. That limits his airway also. And then look at the top of his mouth is very narrow. This should be much wider to accommodate his tongue. And when the bite is so narrow, you can see that this is a very narrow bite. It should be much wider and it should accommodate his tongue easily. Now, what he has total congestion all the time. He is so congested, and then he coughs all the time. So he had just had, when I first started seeing him, he had already had his adenoids removed. But I couldn't get much of any place with the exercises because he was constantly breathing through his mouth. So we sent him back, for another ENT evaluation and went to a hospital. They actually live on an island in Thailand. And so they went to a hospital, and lo and behold, in this picture right here, these are his adenoids having grown back and completely filling his airway. So he can't breathe.
Wow.
So they had to go back in and do surgery again and remove this mass, and so that now he can breathe, and we're teaching him to sit with his mouth closed. So a lot of people have sleep apnea these days.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you can die from sleep apnea because you're not getting enough oxygen at night. So what happens with sleep apnea? So this is a list I give all of my patients, and I have them circle the things that are part of their life. And so snoring when they're asleep, difficulty falling or staying asleep, kicking or moving around during
Mm-hmm.
bedwetting,
Yeah.
choking, gasping, or snorting in their sleep, too active or too tired in the daytime, irritable or temperamental,
Mm-hmm.
difficulty awakening or staying awake too late at night. So
Yeah.
difficulty getting up, and then they can't go to sleep at night. And little sleep attacks or excessive daytime sleepiness. And breathing stops briefly or for many seconds during their sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Distractible or have difficulty concentrate on homework or tasks. They sometimes experience or complain of aching or tingling in their feet or their hands, and
Mm-hmm.
often have learning, memory, or behavior problems.
Wow.
They're all symptoms of, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
And a man I just saw recently almost circled every single one of these things except bedwetting. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, he circled almost every single thing that is happening to him at nighttime.
Yeah.
So, what do we tell people how to sleep? We want them on their back. But some people can't because they've had back surgery and they've told them not to sleep on their back. So then we can't ask them to sleep on their back. But
Mm-hmm.
if they're going to sleep any other way, then they have to sleep on their side, but correctly on their side.
Wow.
So what does that mean? It means no hands under the face or under the pillow under the face, no arms up under their face or under the pillow. And so no pressure on the face, even with the pillow. So the pillow should be back on their ear and up the side of their head. And the pillow shouldn't push their head up off of their shoulder. It should be an even alignment like it is during the daytime. So like here, his head is still in alignment with his body. So there should be no pressure on the face. The head should not be pushed downward or upward. And he should actually have a pillow between his knees.
Got it.
This is what we don't want at all, is any stomach sleeping, because it applies too much pressure to the face. And a lot of people sleep with their hands under the pillow under their face or bunched up under their face on the pillow.
Wow.
And that it causes poor positioning of the neck and back muscles. And it also causes a lordosis of the back. So if we're looking at things that can happen during the night posture wise, this is a huge part of their problem, is that because they don't sleep correctly, their head, neck, and body are not in alignment. Okay. So then we start getting the head being more forward, and we also get a projection more of the back muscles at I can't think what I'm trying to say. They're well, I'm having a momentary glitch of our body parts. So in this part of their back, and then they have a lordosis of the lower part of their back. So their tummy sticks forward. And so I see this all the time. Here's a teenager with mouth open still, and look at shoulders are forward, head is forward. And so their head, neck, body posture remains an issue. all throughout their life. And then they usually have allergies. Often they have asthma. Often they get colds. I ask people, how frequently might you get a cold during a year? Oh, no more than 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have a cold at all. So it's very much a part of their being when everything is working incorrectly.
Yeah.
Now, sleeping correctly and retraining your muscles can literally change your life, like this little man. He was amazing.
Okay.
All the things that he corrected. So first of all, he was a thumb sucker. So
Got a lot of those in the family. Yep.
and then he had a very tight tongue attachment called the lingual frenum, or some people call it a tongue tie.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so this is after we finished. He had surgery on his tongue, and he also had surgery on his upper lip tie, because if you notice here, his upper lip is very short, and it should be longer, because what happens is the lower lip gets too big or overdeveloped, and so as a result of the mouth breathing, their lips aren't as pretty as they should be.
Got it. Yeah.
And remember, we talked about the chin being back. Okay. This picture is before we started. And besides all of the other things that we have, as far as the things that I have talked about in our past podcasts, and his sleeping was very poor. He has a lot of ADHD symptoms. He has difficulty doing homework and schoolwork. He has a lot of behavioral issues. And his total change in his life was so amazing. This is afterward.
Wow.
And
wow.
His beautiful smile. But look what happened to his teeth. We didn't even expect this. This was his bite before we started. And this was his
Oh, my
bite.
goodness.
So his parents were very excited. And it doesn't mean that he's never going to have orthodontics. But this and this are totally different. He shouldn't, like here, he has difficulty biting a sandwich, biting an apple, or biting a carrot. Whereas here, he wouldn't have any difficulty. Here, he would be probably, and he was, a sloppy, mouth open, chewing person, and also swallowing a lot of air. So he had gas and burping issues and stomach aches. And so all of these things, when you take them away, totally change their life. His allergies were greatly decreased. His congestion was gone. And it's not to say that he'll never get a cold in his life, but it does say that he will probably only have maybe 1 at most or 2 a year.
Yeah.
So it's a huge, huge difference that we see once we have done the myofunctional therapy and taught them how to sleep correctly. So now he doesn't toss and turn at night. He sleeps quietly, and he wakes up early in the morning instead of them dragging him out of bed. And it's a total difference in his life. And that is for sure.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing what can happen when you learn how to use your muscles and everything correctly. So do you have any questions of me, Miss Jill?
Well, it's amazing to see these before and afters of how, I've never heard of your field until I met you, right? And here we are, we see doctors, we see sleep therapists, we see orthodontists, and all these little changes can make a difference. I mean, maybe I'm just naive, but how come my doctor hasn't talked about, stuff like this with my children? Why is it not? Yeah, why is it not as popular? Or am I missing something, Barbara? Because that bothers me. This is a great alternative to so many treatments.
It is. And a patient was talking to me just yesterday about some sort of program he was listening to, and someone said something about the tongue and the teeth, and this professional said the tongue has nothing to do with your teeth, and I like, oh my gosh, and of course, any of us, we don't know what we don't know, and so if we have never been educated in this topic, as I said, they don't teach it. And
Yeah.
now, more recently, because of sleep apnea and because people are dying of sleep apnea, because their tongue falls back against their throat and cuts off their airway, they are not breathing.
Yeah.
So it can be a very deadly situation, quite frankly. So it is sad that there isn't more being said about it. Now, at a meeting that I was at Wednesday night, I was talking to a periodontist. He has 3 myofunctional therapists.
Wow.
He wasn't taught about it during his dental school.
Amazing.
But he fast realized, what the heck? Oh, I hit my keyboard.
That's okay. It's okay.
I got to get back out of here.
Right.
He realized that what is happening to these patients? I'm fixing them with my work. And then they come back in and they have either the same problem again or a bigger problem.
Yeah.
So then he started, doing more research. What could be causing this problem? And so it was the myofunctional therapy that came up as a result of his research. And he realized, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need in my practice. So instead of sending to a myofunctional therapist, he hired 3 myofunctional therapists, or he sent 3 of his staff to be trained in myofunctional therapy. I'm not sure exactly what he did. I just know he has 3 myofunctional therapists in his office.
Wow.
So there are a lot of practitioners who totally believe in it. And it's sad. This last week, I had a 58-year-old man who is so sick. He now has, he doesn't feel well any moment of the day or night. He has Lyme disease, he has parasites, he has mold, he has a variety of other symptoms that they're treating.
Oh my.
And yet no one. He has a serious tongue tie. I asked him, any of my patients say, okay, now lift up your tongue and touch the top of your mouth like this. Okay. And he was like this.
Yeah. Wow.
I said, now lift up your tongue and actually touch the top. He said, I am. And so that's how far he could lift his tongue. So then I had to actually take my mirror and go underneath his tongue. And there his tongue tie was this small. And so no one has ever told him. And here he is, a full-time mouth breather, congested, and they're giving him all kinds of antihistamines and drugs and cortisone sprays and all that sort of thing. And yet all they had to do was let him know he had to have a tongue tie surgery and then retrain his muscles and teach him how to breathe through his nose.
Wow.
Now, he told me, well, I've been told I have a deviated septum.
Yeah.
I had to recommend that he have a complete, thorough workup of his nasal airway.
Wow.
I can't teach him to sit with his mouth closed if he can't breathe through his nose. So he's probably going to have surgery on his nose to straighten the septum and trim it, plus the surgery on his tongue, then the myofunctional therapy. And I think a lot of his symptoms, because he sleeps very poorly at night, a lot of his symptoms will go away. and he will feel like a totally different person. But they're so sick by that time that my telling him that he needs these things is so overwhelming that they just want to give up. I mean, they literally just can't face all of that having to be done. Plus, he has already lost his job because of the way he feels. He can't function, and he lost his insurance. So now, I mean, nasal surgery is hugely expensive. So it's a very huge paradigm that we are dealing with.
Yeah.
And I feel so badly for this individual. But this little boy that we saw would have been him years later if nothing had been done like we did for him at his age. So it's pretty amazing. And I'm so happy that you're seeing me, because there's so many people that don't know that this even exists. And now that we have, online searching, and you can put in tongue thrust therapy, and hopefully my website would come up, but at least there are a lot of other therapists too in the world that are doing the therapy. It's just that we're still very few in number compared to what's needed for every area having a myofunctional therapist available. So thank goodness for Zoom.
Thank goodness for you. Well, thank you for being here, Barbara. How do we reach out to you? We are out of time, and it always goes so fast, but thank you so much.
You are most welcome. And I hope that everyone who has a concern about themselves will call. Be happy to talk with them.
Perfect. And what's the phone number?
805-452-4302.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Barbara. Always a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe we'll match again next week and coordinate. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.